Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for August 26, 2008. At 7 p.m. we'll have citizens input. 7:05, Robert Hickey, amendments to memorandum of understanding regarding the NRC dam. At 7:30, Representative Jay Barrows will not be coming in. He's rescheduled for the 9th of September. 7:45, Randy Scollins, for Finance Director, update town website. 8 p.m., then we'll be doing action, old business, new business, and executive session to review minutes, and executive session for Labor Council at 8:30. Paul, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Paul. I'd like to make, before we go to citizens input, I'm going to make one statement here. I don't know if I clarified at the last meeting. This board, as far as me being chairman, will not entertain any more questions or statements about the dog park under citizens input or anything else. It's going to be an agenda item, so if you need to talk about something, needs to contact the secretary here and put it on the agenda, because it bogs down this board from doing other things when it's not on the agenda, and it makes it, and it's not fair, another thing, to both parties cannot always be present. And if you have to pay your attorney to sit there at every meeting just wondering if something's going to come up, it's not fair to either side. So, just so you know, I will not take any citizens' input on the dog park. Thank you. Anybody here for citizens' input? Marjorie, how are you?
Good, how are you? How are you? Good?
Where are the cookies?
You probably won't like me when I get through.
Oh, boy.
I have to say something. I want to go back to August 12th meeting. I think that was the day when I came and asked Andy about fundraising.
Yep, that was the last meeting.
Okay, then I went home. Well, anyway, the next day I watched it because I couldn't watch it that night. And I saw something that was never anything about any of this, in this town ever upset me. I think Mr. Valenzola wanted to say something, and you declined it. You said, no, we're moving on. Mr. Martinson, Mr. Thrasher, as far as I'm concerned, you overthrew him. When Mr. Martinson said, I think we should listen to him, after the chairman said we're going to move on. He didn't want that. First of all, our chairman has the final say. Before I go any further, our chairman is the final say. He has, am I right? In other words, if he says something is going to be motioned to 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, whatever, is that written in gold?
He runs the meeting. The chairman runs the meeting.
Okay, so now I'll go on. I was very disturbed at Mr. Thrasher and Mr. Martinson for I don't know how else to say it, overtaken his, and he stood up, and you guys still demanded that Mr. Valenzola. To me, that was disrespectful from the word go. You don't listen to one another. I see these meetings at home, and I just thought it was rude. I just had, it ate at me for 2 weeks. I have never seen that in this board, ever. So I'm not here to, judge you or anything like that. I'm here to let you know that I felt bad about it. It wasn't fair to Mark. And when he said no, it should have been no. In my day, when people said no to me, that was it. And I was mad. I'm glad I didn't stay that day. I'm glad I didn't, because I would have been furious. It was so disrespectful, out of no consideration of him. And I don't really, I care about this town. Maybe I care too much, but that's my problem, okay? I get involved. I hope I never see that again. I really don't. I don't think it was right. I love you all dearly. No, it's got nothing to do. It's just the way I felt. And it ate at me for 2 weeks. Never did anything like that bother me as far as town meetings or Yeah, I just went along with the flow. But I think from here on in, we should sit and listen to one another, wait till one gets done, and then talk. Half the time I don't know what we're talking about. But this was disrespectful. And I don't know what else to say. I love you all dearly, I do. I do, and I respect you. And I think you're doing a great job for the town. The bottom line is, you're never gonna please, no matter what you do, everybody. We all know that. But I didn't approve of that, Paul, I'm sorry, and I didn't approve of that, Mr. Jim. But probably doesn't matter what I approve of. I just think it was disrespectful to the... And that's it. I feel better now.
Okay, thank you much.
Is it all right? You're not mad? Nobody's mad?
No,
You probably will talk about me after I leave, huh?
Margie, I appreciate your opinion. My intent is never to be disrespectful to Mark. I do think some things are really important and that I like to get my point across and to be able to articulate them. So, I'll admit to being vocal about what I feel. And again, your opinion is very important to me. My intent is never to be disrespectful, but the balance is, can I get across my point? And I understand your points and I appreciate them. Thank you.
I'd like you to make an appointment to sit down with me. We'll view the video together so you can point out exactly what you thought was disrespectful, because I thought it was a matter
I
of,
would be glad to.
please.
You name the time and the date. And I'll, whatever I have on
What's
my
your telephone
agenda,
number, Marge?
508
Mm-hmm.
543 0729.
Okay, well, I look forward to it.
Maybe there's something I'm missing.
I look forward to it.
Well, I
Thank-
want to stay for the meeting for a little bit, can I?
You can do whatever you want. Jack Othelet, I see you're on the agenda for citizens' input. Jack, just so I can introduce you, this is Roland Blaze, who I called earlier.
Oh, Roland.
And
I'll talk to you after. Okay. But I've got some information. All right.
Roland, this is basically on your input at the last meeting, based on the unmarked grave at the state school, and he's going to give a report on it.
Could I do one other thing first?
Absolutely.
So Eddie, so Cal Cush, Chairman of the Historical Commission, Eddie Noonan, firefighter by profession, electrician by trade, nice guy by nature.
Make
that public. Quite some time ago, Eddie and I, as an extension of the work on the common, the illumination of the memorials, etc., it was kind of casting his eyes at Memorial Hall. I left a photo in each of your places. The plan would be to do a soft blush of light on the exterior of Memorial Hall. Three primary reasons for this. That's the darkest corner of downtown Foxboro with no illumination. It would be a safety factor once the police department gets its fiber optic system up and running, but that's something else again. Memorial Hall is right now our town archives, but it was built as a war memorial. That is a memorial built at the end of the Civil War, so it's an extension of the memorials. It was the first one. The Common is more the extension of Memorial Hall. But inside there are the tablets for the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, and Civil War. So that is part of our memorials. And Ed devised a plan. We brought different types of light up to Memorial Hall to show the Historical Commission different types of illumination. Again, just looking for that soft blush as we have on the memorials, just so that building doesn't fall dark. Ed can discuss some of the technical aspects.
Yeah, well, right now, I mean, it was lit years ago, and everything was done from the roof, which right now it's actually a safety hazard. A lot of that conduit's fallen down. I'm surprised we haven't had problems in the past, because it's a hazard, both physical hazard and a fire hazard, because there is some live electrical out there, and it hasn't been touched in 20 years. That being said, I took it a step further and talked to Jack that it is a beautiful building, and to have that illuminated at night will just, will bring Uptown to another grade. And so through the use of some temporary lighting that I made up, we used some gas lamps, some metal halide lights, like 70 watts to 100 watts. We're still playing around with it. We were able to spend some time up there and illuminate certain areas of that building. Let it be the front of the building, maybe a couple of the cornices, all made out of granite, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. It's really going to illuminate the center of town. It's going to highlight that building, and it's a shame that the soldier top lays dark at night, because I'm telling you, we can dress that up, and it'll be talk of the town. It's labor intensive in the sense that a lot of trenching. We're going to do it right. Anything we put in the ground is going to be a permanent fixture in the ground. Penetrating into the basement will take some work. That's all granite. Drilling through that's going to be tough. Everything will be on time clock. So we're going to do a state-of-the-art job. I think it's two phases. One is to uplight the bottom of the building, and then we're going to try to figure out how we can illuminate the soldier atop of the building. And that's a job in itself. So we haven't gotten that far, but with Jack and everyone's assistance, we want to move forward with it, and it's a good thing. So.
Rather than spotlights on wings of the building, we could have 3 very small lights coming out of the base that the soldier stands on. Just right there, and bingo, they're up, and the soldier is illuminated. But a couple of things. The Historical Commission now has a preservation committee. Anything about the building will be evaluated very, very thoroughly by the committee, and as this progresses, we work very, very closely with them. The only impact on the building is places where we have to come through to run a wire underground. All of the other fixtures are freestanding at the very base of the building. They're not attached to anything, and most of them are in behind the shrubs, unseen. They're just directing light up.
Nice, yeah.
The only one you can't run lights out in the cemetery to have shine back, because you're going to be in trouble mowing lawns and tripping over them, whatever. All these things will be ground level, right against the building, out of the way. The only difference, if we came out beside the front walk, there's a granite piece out front that says Memorial Hall,
Right.
Town Archives. Wood chips all around it. We could put a surface light there. That is what you see in your picture. And that 175-watt fixture does the entire front of that building. So it gives a very, very nice effect. And the funding for this, as a lot of these projects, we've done private subscription, but our finance director, Randy Scollin, suggested that we did get some betterment money from the Foxboro Lodge project down there by the business park for illumination of the common. Well, we've got that project all done. So there's $30,000 sitting there for illumination of downtown. And Randy suggests that we take the $5,000 that we think this would cost.
I talked to you about that. It's sort of earmarked for more lighting, but we might be able,
All right.
we might be able to work it in.
So we're talking about $5,000. Would that include the soldier, or just the
Well,
first
we may
phase?
try to work it in there. I'm not sure yet. I don't know what we're going to get into.
Right.
Digging up there could be a nightmare. I mean, it may be all granite. You may have outcroppings from that building. And it's important to get the stuff, to do it right the first time and get it in the ground and, dig it deep enough and take our time and do it right. So that's what I'm using for a rough figure. And if we come under and I can, throw some up top, then by all means,
But that's the only impact on the building or the grounds, is the initial coming through the wall below ground level to get power outside and running from light to light. But in the process of this, you've got hundreds of feet of conduit coming off the building.
Yeah.
It's been there for years doing nothing. There's floodlights up there that haven't had bulbs in them for years. I mean, how to get rid of it?
Yeah, if you get up there, you take a look at it, you realize what's up there. And it's a rat's nest, it is. There's a lot of stuff. And it's time for that stuff to come down, because it wasn't even steel conduit they ran up there. It was, the metallic conduit that's all rusting that's coming through, so that's where the safety hazard comes in. And it's dark, which is a shame,
But if we had the blessing of the board, we do have the blessing of the Historical Commission, and we're working with them, with their Preservation Committee. We'd like to put this in motion and just refine little details, this light or that light, this size, that size, just those little details as we go along. But the basic concept would be to illuminate the major sections of the building all the way around.
James?
No, I don't have any questions.
Nope.
Well,
I love it. Yeah, my blessing. Let there be light, Eddie. Let there be light, man.
on the first day. Linda?
No, I think it's a great idea. It only makes sense, and it's one of our historical markers that should be illuminated with class, and I think Eddie's going to take care of that.
I mean, the common, to me, it couldn't look any better, and kudos to Tree and Park for the work they do. I think the finest thing we ever did was add the illumination of the memorials so that darkness does not fall on the names of those we're trying to honor there. And it's really an extension of that. I think it would brighten up downtown at night, and it'd just be a nice touch, nice soft touch. We aren't talking a glaring, big mall type thing, just once over light.
No, I appreciate everything you do in the town. I appreciate it coming forward once again to help with the project. So I would suggest that you just talk the money situation over with Randy, whoever involved, and move forward.
Yeah, Andy just twisted my arm a little bit, so I think he's had some discussion with Randy since I did, but
Maybe he's trying to give you a few bucks under the table.
we're working. But, no, I mean, the encouragement and support of the Board of Selectmen has always been appreciated, but, I mean, we serve you guys. And we always want to make sure that what we are doing is consistent with what you would like to see us be doing. We'll bring the ideas, and if you can approve them, we love it, we go and we'll make it happen.
I think I serve you.
Yeah.
Anything else on that subject?
No, I've got
I
one
know you have
other thing.
another one.
Thank you.
Get into.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Thanks, Jack.
When I was here 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the dedication of the historic marker at the State Hospital Cemetery. And we had a marvelous program down there. Linda brought greetings to the town. Mr. Morrison, last seen loading chairs in the car, picking up afterwards. Didn't go unnoticed. But the Historical Commission did a nice job. We had, about 50 people down there. However, the night that I made the presentation, a gentleman sitting in the audience, who has since returned, said that as a 40-year state hospital employee, he knew of a grave behind the hospital itself, not in the cemetery. He thought it was somebody who had died from a communicable disease. As I said at that time, I had heard the story many times, but there's just not enough there to go on. I was very fearful, however, that if the grave was there, was it in danger of any of the construction going on? So, very first thing the next morning, I called Dave Crescini at Chestnut Green just to see if they had seen anything, and he said something had showed up on the topographic wetland survey map that Buckley did. So I then called Bill Buckley Jr. He said there was a matter of interest down behind the paint shop. That was the clue. That
It's right beside the paint shop. There's a white marker, and it's written on there.
Well,
Did you find another one, Jack?
no, with the information I got from Buckley, by noontime I was down heavily overgrown area, and here are 4 granite posts about this high, setting aside area that I estimate to be 6 feet by 9 feet. And very clearly, a grave. There was a little stone, similar to what they used in the Cross Street Cemetery. I did not bring a brush with me, so I didn't mess with the stone, but even if there is a number on it, we have no list to compare numbers to. That wasn't my point at the moment. So the grave does exist. A grave exists there. Behind the paint shop, off to the side. No, directly behind the paint shop, I'm sorry, off to the side of the laundry building. I brought Carl up to date. I notified the state. But on that piece of land, that has since been deeded over to the town. Now, when the Department of Community Assets Management disposed of the state hospital property, they had no idea that grave was there. They weren't Department of Mental Health.
Right.
They were the real estate branch of government. They had no idea it was there any more than Foxboro knew it was there when we accepted that land. So all of a sudden, we inherit a grave that I believe belongs over on Cross Street. Now, assuming that this would go through a approval process, I started to work on a plan to do something about this. Willow Grove Nursery, that handles burials for Rock Hill and St. Mary's and a lot of cemeteries in the area, they would open the grave, remove the remains. Robert's Funeral Home would transport the remains to Cross Street Cemetery. Commonwealth of Massachusetts would open the grave at Cross Street for the removal of this individual. Mr. Blaze mentioned he thought this individual died of a highly communicable disease. I was unable to get any indication at all who was buried there or what time what year or anything else. So I started tracing the disease end of it and came up with a period of time in which there was a smallpox epidemic that impacted 3 patients and 2 staff members of the hospital. 1 patient died, 1903. However, no death record. Now, technically, in order to open that grave and transport somebody, we need a permit issued by Foxboro Town Clerk based on a death certificate. You can't get a death certificate for somebody you don't know, who died on a date unknown. I made the state aware of this. They have some of their people working on it. I would like to believe that somewhere down the line, somebody would be able to make an exception for the rather unique situation we find ourselves in. And we were just trying to make right something that was done many, many years ago. And this would get the grave out of harm's way. It's not, I don't mean to imply it's in any danger now, but we can't speak for the future. Let's get it out of there, get it to the cemetery where it belongs. There's a few $100s of expenses involved that Andy suggests could be covered out of the commission budget, and then if we ran short, something could be done about that later in the year. But the point is that the money would be available.
If I remember correctly, when one of those pillars that are out there on the side, one of them is marked. It's got a marking. It's chipped into the stone itself.
Yeah, but this is not what I saw, so let's go down there together and we'll take a look at
Okay.
it.
That'd be great if you could do that, Roland. Roland, that'd be great if you could work with
Yeah,
Jack on that.
Because what I saw is distinctly four markers in a stone setting aside a grave.
So I remember as one. It was marked on the top.
Yeah,
It's
no.
right beside the paint shop.
Roland, do you remember, was the incident happen while you were there or
No,
well
no,
before?
no.
Right.
No.
This
happened way before I even started there. This happened, like you said, way in.
1900.
You know, this is a good 100 yards or so beyond the paint shop.
No, this is right beside the paint shop.
Well, I think you two
Yeah,
gotta go
I think-
Gotta get down
together.
and get the same.
Like I
If we
said, you
got
might have
another
more than
one.
one if it was.
Lord,
Well, maybe there's more than one down there,
Right,
but
I bet you there is.
I know of only, because they always told us never to go near there, because they never wanted to dig it up because it was, he died of something and they buried him back there. I mean, they didn't even put him over there on Cross Street. So they never wanted to go near it.
Well, Jack, if you could, I'm sure other people want to ask questions, but I'm just saying, if you could, work together, roll, and make sure you're on the same page here, and move forward, come back and report to the board. I mean, I
Right.
find this very interesting. I find this very interesting.
Well, I know we got the one.
Yeah.
And we got something else that we gotta check. But
We got room for about 30 or 40.
my schedule hardly allowed the time I put into the one. I don't know where to go for 3 or 4 here. But I think the point is, let's get everything in place so that if we can get help on the paperwork, either with an identification or somebody interceding on our behalf to say another type of paperwork would suffice, let's get ready. And in the meantime, I'll check out what Mr. Blaze has, and then we can go from there. But it's within our power to make this right and get it over with once and for all.
Ken?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you, Jack.
I'm absolutely fascinated by this, Jack, and you never cease to amaze me with the amount of work and research that you do. And I appreciate it, and I'm sure, the families that we don't know and never knew.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's
Right.
it's
But it's
amazing
just
what you do.
when Mr. Blaze brought it up, my fear was, is it in danger? So I felt we had to know right away.
I can't believe something slipped under your nose, Jack.
My only question is, who do you deal with at the state on something like this? You said you contacted the state, and what's the department? Who is it that you go to?
Well, right now, the gal that I'm dealing with is in the community liaison or something, in the Department of Mental Health. We sometimes get cross jurisdictions here because some of these activities were Department of Mental Health. Later on, Rentham State School Department of Retardation was doing some things over there. DCAM, totally separate, is coming in for the disposals. We have absolutely fabulous cooperation with the state. They are very, very pleased with what we're doing. They feel badly that they knew nothing about this. It wasn't a case that anyone was trying to gloss over anything. I just crossed jurisdictions over the years, and just totally innocent in transferring a piece of property with a body, with a grave on it.
Paul, you all set?
Yeah.
Linda?
well, you've opened it up now, Jack, so we gotta
Well,
go down there and,
We gotta open it up.
well, I mean,
Well, I don't know if I like that idea, but.
I'm hoping that there's just one poor soul that, maybe it was a disease back then that, we can handle now if it ever came to the air, I guess, but, I'm just hoping it's just one soul and that when you and Mr. Blaze go down there, you don't get introduced to another.
I don't know what he
another-
died of. I have no clue.
Well, I just hope you don't find another
Well,
soul another grave.
The one
So-
that I'm talking about is right beside the paint shop.
I think you need to take the other trip down there, Jack.
If you two
I'd be
have-
willing to go with you if you need help or whatever, but I think we need to find out if there's more than one.
If you two hurry, you can get there before dark.
Down there right now, it's too close to dark.
You want to go right now? Let's go. I got a four-wheel drive truck. Let's go.
I'll go too.
Thanks, Jack.
Go on, Paul. I'll go.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
When do you want to go?
Just go get numbers rolling, please. I appreciate it. Okay. That it for citizens' input? It was a long one. Okay, Robert Hickey, 7:05, being the time. Welcome.
I never ran late when I was running a meeting, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I remember those. I used to fall asleep.
Thank you. In the interest of saving time, I was wondering if I could invite up a few other people just to participate. So, and I'm going to apologize. I'm a little under the weather, so my usual robust voice isn't going to carry tonight. Can I ask Bob to come up, and Sheila, if you could come up also, and maybe Chris, if you wanted to come up with the friends. I did not put anything in your packet
Hold on.
for this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Names to the record.
I
as you said.
apologize. Sheila Warner.
I know you all. But
I know, but you're right. Sheila Warner of the Neponset Reservoir Restoration Commission, Chris Mellon with the Friends of the Neponset Reservoir, and Bob Odie with the Conservation Commission.
hello. Welcome.
And the reason I've asked them is that they did me the honor of inviting me to their joint annual meeting last Thursday, was it? And allow me the chance to practice out this presentation and get their feedback as to where we were trying to go with this. And I appreciated their input there, and I appreciate their participation now. As we know, a memorandum of understanding was entered into between the town of Foxboro through the Board of Selectmen, the Neponset Reservoir Restoration Commission, and Vensis, Tyco, Kendall, whatever they're calling themselves, and Hollingworth and Vose, Tyco and Hollingworth and Vose acting through the auspices of the Neponset Reservoir Company, who has ownership of the dam. And that memorandum states that the Board of Selectmen will place on the warrant at the next town meeting an article seeking ownership, gifting of a dam for ownership pending complete restoration and repair to the full water level, to be funded at no taxpayer dollars. Okay. So that's in place, and what I'm asking now has nothing to do with what has taken place, but rather under the header of sometimes the road is a little windy, but hopefully we all end up in the place we want to be. When Andy and I undertook this as your negotiating team a couple of years ago, we had started out with the desire, if you will, that this dam be owned by the town, and I think we're in agreement that we wanted, on a high level, to see it owned by the Conservation Commission for several reasons. One, they own the property on both sides of the dam.
True. We thought that at that time, Conservation Commission would have agreed to get involved.
And part of this is, and I keep this as a positive because I really do believe that everything happened over the last couple of years for a good reason. And the education, the research, the institutional knowledge that we gained through some tough questions and some thorough discussions brought us to a point where I think everybody is much more comfortable with the dam situation, the ownership of the land beneath, than maybe any of us were 2 years ago. And when we had put out the feelers a couple years ago, we didn't get a warm fuzzy, if you will, that the conservation was eager to take ownership of the dam. And I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but my feeling is that they didn't have the answers to a lot of questions, and they feared that it was going to be a high maintenance cost, and they wouldn't have the money perhaps to afford it. These are the things I had heard. And as I was taking my MBA course, one of my instructors told me never ask a question you don't necessarily want the answer to, and I didn't do that. So Andy and I took a different path, and that path was for ownership through the Board of Selectmen for the town. I think one of the positives that has happened over the last couple of years is we've done a lot of research, gained a lot of knowledge, put together a very compelling presentation as to why this is not only a minimal risk opportunity, but it's also the right opportunity to take ownership of the dam and have it controlled by the town for recreation and conservation purposes, as well as to fully support maximizing the $2.5 million settlement that the town had entered with Vensis that created the NRRC. For all these reasons, it makes sense that the town owns it. Coming full circle, a former member of the Conservation Commission, I imagine heard a lot of the discussions and the presentations, and sent out the question that I was perhaps afraid to ask the CONCOM, and asked them if they would reconsider taking ownership. Chairman Bodie, of course, correctly pointed out that they'd never been asked. So as one of those perhaps oversights on my part, the Conservation Commission invited me to a meeting as your representative through your committee, the NRC committee, subcommittee. And a very good conversation occurred. A lot of questions were asked. Essentially the same type of presentation that I gave to you a month and a half ago. This was a follow-up to that. And Bob can probably speak to it better than I, but they made a motion, took a vote, and they are requesting that the Board of Selectmen allow them to accept the gift and have ownership of the dam. It was a unanimous vote, 6-0. Judy Johnson, of course, serving on multiple committees, had to recuse herself from the vote. So, Bob, did you want to toss anything in there at this point? Or?
No,
I didn't rehearse any of this with anybody, and I apologize, but
no,
you know me, I just dump you in. No rehearsal's better than
you're right.
Too much.
The surprise is a big element. No, we had a very good meeting. Mr. Hawking made a very good presentation, and as to why, when he was chairman, there were a lot of unknowns. A lot of those unknowns are now knowns as far as the maintenance issue, and we feel that with a slight adjustment to our budget, we'd be able to put in enough money into the budget so we could do all the maintenance necessary for the dam. And it would be a good thing. The Conservation Commission is the largest landowner around the reservoir. We have, and so it basically, in my opinion, it makes sense that we would become the owners of the dam.
And the reason I asked these other folks to come up is, simply put, they are stakeholders. Sheila Warner, Reese isn't here, so I take Sheila as a resident expert on the reservoir. And on the NRRC board, they took a vote at the meeting before the last meeting that authorized a $500 annual draw account that could be accessed by the Conservation Commission to use for dam repairs, by weed whackers, by hot dogs for volunteers, and that would be an annual amount that they've pledged through vote to make available to the Conservation Commission to support their annual maintenance budget. Did you have anything you wanted to add, or?
No, just that we think it's a good idea and the way that it should go, and we agree that conservation, owns the land around it, is the right board, I think, to be on top of all the future things that we plan on doing would have to go before them anyway. They've been involved with the drawdown and all the steps through the state in the processes, both phosphorus, heavy metals, and stuff. So they have people that sit on the board for a lot of years, so it's not re-educating new people all the time. They have a history, they understand everything and all the complexities of the different issues at the reservoir, so it makes a lot of sense to me.
And on top of that, the NRRC, which is our nonprofit independent organization that was created to utilize the $2.5 million settlement to handle the phosphate contamination and the cleanup. The way it would be set up if the Board of Selectmen owned it is they would have to work through the board to the Concom for the annual drawdowns, for the permitting necessary, for the applications, for whatever treatments were mandated through their work with their consultant. Part of keeping it simple is that by removing this board from the process, it will be a unit of work off of your desk, and it will be a unit of work onto the Concom. But it will not be it will be a redundant unit because they would have to be researching the same issues anyway, because it's truly their permitting process that you have to go through to do the annual applications, whatever they might be. And so Andy and I thought originally 2 years ago that it would be much more streamlined. We've taken a windy path to get there, but I am excited that the Concom now feels that they have enough information and are comfortable taking ownership, because I truly believe this is the way it should have been all along. Chris Mell and I have invited up because the Friends of the Ponce Reservoir are a stakeholder, while not a financial player. They are the. Have you incorporated already? Not yet. They're in the process of incorporating, but they appear to be a very strong organization, one that's going to be here to stay. And I think they have a lot of positive energy that they bring to the table. As far as a lasting commitment to the Conservation Commission to support their objective of having a clean lake, a user-friendly lake, a lake that's not only a resource to the property owners around it, but to the entire town with the public access and the recreation opportunities. And they're a player also in that sometimes conservation, which is a legitimate concern, is concerned primarily with environmental issues and protecting our town's resources. There will be a good give and take and a good counterbalance with the Friends and with the NRRC, so that way I don't believe there should be a fear that it will be decided one way or the other, and it'll be a good balance to keep the interests of the property owners, the interests of the town, the recreation users, the fishermen, the boaters, and conservation needs, the protection of the shores and the water, the resources, the plant life, and the animal life. So I think it's a positive solution. Why am I here before you? Because we already signed an agreement, and everybody's already signed it. Under the header of doing the right thing late is better than not doing the right thing at all. They presented this to me, and so I presented it to you, as your representative on your subcommittee, that this offer has been made by the Conservation Commission. I think for these reasons, I would like to ask that you look favorably upon this request, and if you do look favorably upon it, I would then, I've not spent any money yet, so don't worry, I would then ask our town council to draft an amendment to the existing MOU, further defining how the town of Foxboro would accept ownership of the dam as a gift through the conservation. I'm not going to pretend to know the language, but I suspect it would say something to the tune of paragraph 3 is amended to read, Conservation Commission through the town of Foxboro accepts ownership of the dam upon full completion. I would imagine that's what the amendment would read. Hollingworth and Vose does not necessarily believe that amendment is necessary. I don't know one way or the other until I ask the question, and I wanted to get your feeling before I ask the question of our own town council. So what I'm asking is that you hear what's been said, and that you give me any thoughts as to why this isn't a good idea or why this is a good idea, and that you give me permission to go forward with our attorney to draft a memorandum of understanding amendment that would encapsulate what we've agreed upon. Or, if you have no interest and you want to see this solely before the meeting, let me know so that way I won't spend money on that.
James?
I'm sorry, Bob, spend money on what?
Our attorney is giving an opinion as to whether we needed a memorandum of understanding and an amendment and to draft an amendment. If you have no interest in entering into such an amendment, there's no reason to spend money to draft one.
Okay. How many dams does the town own now?
5.
Five other dams.
And who manages them?
They're under the control of the Conservation Commission.
The 5 existing...
Except
for
one.
the water
Except one.
department.
One's under the water department control.
So the 5 that
Yeah.
we own are currently under the management of the Conservation Commission?
4.
4.
Gavin's Pond is under the water department.
If we went forward and let town meeting have the vote, would the town then have the management control over this particular dam? I mean, wasn't the original issue that was presented preserving the water level? Isn't that how we got into the whole?
Yep.
Okay. And is there a question? Don't we have a question as to whether or not right now we can require that dam owner to maintain the water level? Isn't that one of the issues we're trying to resolve prior to the time we go to town meeting?
No.
No. So we can't require the water level to remain as it currently is.
That's a Conservation Commission question.
As far as I know, the primary issue is dam safety, and they are required to make the dam safe. Now, the way they can do that is to keep the water level low, and the dam is safe the way it is. They do not have to repair it. If the town wants full water level, the dam has to be repaired. And from my understanding, and I may be wrong, they can walk away from it and say, no, we're not going to repair it. The dam is safe. It meets the state requirements. I don't feel that, as a member of the Conservation Commission, I don't think that we have the legal right to say, no, you've got to spend money to repair the dam and bring the water level up to its full height.
And to that, if I could just add to it, to that end, we're not at full level right now. We're low by
And the
several
dam is
feet.
safe right now.
And the dam is safe right now, but I would also caution that it is in need of repair. There's no guarantee that the next inspection that occurs will not say there's further deterioration and that further lowering of the water level is required. In fact, the letter that prompted this whole thing that was submitted by them had requested drawing out 5 boards, I believe?
I think so.
5 boards, and that was the recommendation by their engineer. So now we get into a discussion as to, is the engineer being overly conservative, and that'll be part of their request if they were forced to go down that road. And I don't believe there's a guarantee. I think that the reason why, this is a good question, the reason why we got into this 2 years ago is that the outcome we want to see is that the lake is clean, vibrant, usable for recreation purposes, and that the environment is maintained at a sound level. To do that, the water needs to be raised back up to its historic levels, which allows fully for the annual drawdown to be most effective and allows the NRRC to go forward with their phosphate mitigation program that's been developed, and which will allow for maximum usage by fishermen, boaters, and property owners, as well as outside folks who want to come and use the lake. That's what the outcome is. There's been many discussions and many, I call them red herrings, but many side discussions as to what if. All of those are valid points. Any what if scenario is valid, and it should be understood that that could be an outcome. The intent of the solution is that we create the best solution at zero cost to the taxpayer, and we don't have to worry about the what if scenario. By doing it this way, we've already, through the MOU, we've already eliminated 95% of the what ifs. By allowing the Conservation Commission to have ownership of the gift and ownership of the dam, we eliminate the last 5, which is, in short, and I count myself as having been on the sport, I don't believe I had the expertise to adequately manage the dam, because as an elected public official, it wasn't my area of expertise. Some would argue I didn't have any expertise, but that's beside the point. But I assure you that as a sitting member of this board who was tasked with understanding the most about the reservoir, I was not comfortable, if you will, with understanding all the nuances and the issues surrounding it. Conservation, the average length of tenure on your board, again, is 18 years, something like that.
Somewhere in that
of
area.
people who are, that is their interest, and that's their... So anyway, let me know if there's anything else.
James?
If you're going to flip the egg timer on me, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm kidding with you, Paul.
I know.
Well, I guess my question is, why did we go through the whole process of putting it, going through the long contract negotiation? As you may recall, Bob, one of the reservations I had, although I voted to put it in front of town meeting, was the lack of an ongoing fund available in the event that there was a need for expensive maintenance. And that was one of the issues I expected to have debate at town meeting, which is why we didn't negotiate that. Well, one of the other misgivings I had is I didn't know if we were negotiating from a position of strength, which is why I posed the question to the Conservation Commission. If we understand what our right is as a town and as a Conservation Commission to require certain things of the owner, it enhances our negotiating position and gives the town the benefit of not having to pay the ongoing maintenance, and safeguards, especially those who own land abutting the reservoir, having to worry at a later time that the water level can be diminished. So,
I think I've already answered that, though, by saying that the annual expenses, cost of mowing 2 or 3 times a year, and that money has been identified from a private donation from the NRRC through a revolving gift account that the Conservation can tap into for resources.
Well, and I'd like to say the reason that we're going forward in whichever of these 2 directions is to get town ownership to protect it, because the Office of Dam Safety is not in the business of making dam owners keep their dam up if they don't want it. A lot of dams across the state, and that may be the town of Foxboro's choice as well, are taking down a lot of these dams. These were formed for mill ponds that are no longer a mill pond. And this situation is different than most in that it's one of the largest bodies of water in Norfolk County, has a recreational history and a lot of benefit, as well as contamination that needs to be kept underwater. But that mill owner can't be forced to keep that when they don't want it anymore. And they have every right to lower it. They originally came forth with a position of lowering all 6 boards, bringing it back to a swamp. Well, because of heavy metals and because of, good neighbor situation and because of abutters, they chose a halfway in between, which was not going to be good for any of us. So it's because they don't have to be the dam owner and because they have the right to lower it that we as a town need to step up and take care of our resource and bring our resource back to the state that it should be and full height. So the only real question is, do we as a town want to own it? Is that the best place? Or should we own it through the conservation who's going to manage it? And in our
I didn't
opinion-
realize that was a settled question, that the dam owner had every right to lower it. I didn't realize that, Sheila.
Well,
And I
dam
apologize.
safety will,
I apologize, I didn't make that clear, but I thought we had said that several times, so I apologize if I didn't make that clear enough.
Okay, I thought it was an open question as to what their obligation was.
I don't feel, with the dam safety, they say, make the dam safe, and there's multiple ways of doing it. And the easiest and least expensive for the dam owner is to take the boards out and let the water go gradually.
and the town of Foxboro may choose to do that. I don't know your other 5 dams in town, but when you're asked to look at it, one of your options are to pull the boards and breach the dam.
Yeah,
And that's what this
exactly
dam owner
That's what
wants
you're
to
doing
do.
with
Upper dam.
Upper Dam. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing with Upper Dam.
We're breaching it.
Okay.
You all set, James?
Yes, ma'am.
Paul?
I also support having it go to town meeting. I do think it's an open question whether or not they have the right to release all the boards. I truly do. I don't know the answer, and I'm wondering whether or not there's any downside to have our new law firm take a look at that, and then we just know. As it is, we already have an agreement where the NRRC will throw in, it was around 100,000, right? And we still have that. If
You
we-
have that if the town takes ownership of a fully
through
repaired
town meeting, understood.
No,
But-
not necessarily through town meeting, it can be.
No, I understand it can also be that way, right? So we already have that memo of understanding. I think it would be helpful to get Paul Durensis' view on it and just take it for what it's worth. I mean,
Well, the question was brought up last week.
I know, I think Paul thinks that the Concom does have the power, but in fairness to Paul,
Okay,
he,
I guess my first question is, what power do we have? What do we have as an enforcement issue? We have a cease and desist on somebody, they choose to ignore it. Who do we send out? The police? We do not have penalties or anything else in our bylaws or any of our jurisdiction to penalize anyone for not obeying the law. How can we force somebody to spend $750,000 to build a dam that they do not want to build and
has no use.
Has no use for them?
But Bob,
Like-
excuse me for one second, I think he's concurring with what Bob Hickey has just asked, that we send this to town council to be reviewed.
No, not at all.
No.
What, and I hear what Paul is saying.
We've already
Town
spent that money.
council is to modify the memorandum of
Well,
understanding.
it's kind of basically,
No,
No.
no. It's-
What Paul is
it's-
suggesting is that we essentially understand what some of the outcomes could be. I'm willing to cede that there's a possibility that that could happen. Andy and I did that research. We understand that there's an opportunity, that Paul is absolutely correct, and that the Hollingworth and Vose could be ordered to keep it at the current water level. But it's still low. It's still below where it should be. In order for the dam to be fully repaired and the water levels to come back up to its original height, to its historic level, the dam needs to be repaired. And to that end, even if they are given an order that they must make repairs, that's a long, drawn-out process. It saps their resources, meaning their financial pot of money that they've put in place, and eliminates the opportunity to fully repair the dam. So it's not that it's a question that it's an either or. It's a question that through strong negotiations and through being in a position where we wanted an outcome, we presented an opportunity for the outcome. We created a funding source to reach that outcome. And that's why I think we've done the right thing. And I'd like to see us take the next step and allow the Conservation Commission to have it.
I certainly don't know whether or not you can. I don't know what mechanisms you would have in place. I have no idea. But I have to believe our new law firm would have at least a few views on it. And I think we'd be making, in my view, an uninformed decision unless we asked them. And we might come back, there's no mechanism. Fine, it is what it is. You know, we can't make stuff up, but that's kind of my view. And my hope, the best outcome for this would be, or a really good outcome, is that you can mandate it. It gets to that level that you want. And NRRC doesn't have to throw in $100,000. And then if and when it runs out of money, the town doesn't have to step in and help abate the phosphorus pollution. That's, you know, just
They've already had 3 years of 2 boards down. And if it weren't for all our squawking, it would be 3 boards. And the option isn't for it to stay where it is.
I understand
They want
that.
to take 1 more board out. So the option would be whether or not they're allowed to take 3, not the 2 that are already out. We've already lost 3 years. We've already spent a fortune and gone around and around the boards. Our old town council already looked at this. We already had a settlement here all set to go because we all kind of understood this, I thought, that we can't force. We already know we can't force the full repair, and we haven't been able to. We've already lost 3 years. How many more years do we need to lose?
Do we, I mean, did our former council actually write memos on this? Can't do it under the conservation bylaws, that sort of thing? In other words, we didn't have that in our
It doesn't have
packet.
anything to do with.
I don't think anybody can presume to know how the Office of Dam Safety would rule, but I would suggest that,
You can talk to them. They'll tell you.
yeah, exactly.
But again, if I don't know the answer to it again, but if you ask the Office of Dam Safety question, they're like the guy who the only instrument he has is a hammer. Everything's a hammer, so everything's a nail rather. But if you ask another Department of Environmental Protection, maybe they have a different answer and
I
one
have.
that can actually help us.
I have, and I can tell you just a couple things.
Hey,
If we could, she'll actually
Keep
has
it
a lot
in
of those
order.
answers.
if you want to talk, excuse me, Bob, you can get up to the mic and I'll recognize you, okay?
I think before Sheila starts, though, I would ask this board to understand that a lot of people have worked very hard and decades on this problem. And I was in the same situation you were 6 years ago. I said, I don't know the answers. Now I do know a lot of the answers. And if we take the approach that we don't know the solution, we don't know the answer, but we have an idea, I think we're going to spend another couple of years going through the process. I have faith that Sheila's group and my group and our negotiating group and the conservation group has a good handle on the situation. And I'm asserting, with my experience and with my ability to understand what's going on in government, that the Office of Dam Safety is not going to support Hollingworth and Vose being forced to build it back up to its historical levels. That is not an outcome that we, as the Sitting Board of Selectmen before, were extremely comfortable with, and it's not a position that the other stakeholders sitting at this table are comfortable with. Anything short of full capacity, if you will, creates environmental issues with the shoreline changing, which it already has for 3 years. We've got new, I'm not even getting into what they're called, but you've got things growing that shouldn't be growing. You've got exposed sediment. You also have a lesser annual drawdown, which reduces the impact of the annual flushing, which doesn't allow for as many nutrients and poisons and rotted material to flow out down the Neponset River. All of those things, in addition to the fact that with the increased shoreline, you then potentially decrease property values, which is a hit to the town's tax rolls at some point down the road, with less marketable properties. I don't know. All of those reasons factored into our negotiating position why we're seeking the full capacity solution. If we got into a lawsuit again, or we got into a discussion and a he said, she said, we may be able to win a point, or we may be able to win 2 points, we may be able to win 3 points. But that's what I was hoping to avoid by creating the solution. I would ask you again that the outcome we're looking for is a fully restored lake, fully restored dam, and when it's zero cost to the taxpayer. That's what we have in place. What I'm asking now is, Conservation Commission made the offer that they would like to take ownership of the dam as a gift. Does this board feel as though that would be a good thing, or does this board feel that they would rather take ownership and manage the dam
Mark, can I-
themselves?
Oh, yeah.
sorry, Paul.
Well,
Can I make
absolutely.
my last
Yeah,
point?
but I understand that, Bob, and I respect that. But the board has some questions they want to ask. So
And I've been answering them.
And that's what we're going to go through the process here.
That's
So,
fantastic.
Can I make my last point now?
Yep.
Keep quiet on this. Is that I'm just simply suggesting we ask our attorney, gee, what are our rights and responsibilities? I'm certainly don't want, not looking for a lawsuit. I just want to be more informed on it. So, to the extent you're thinking that I want a lawsuit, not at all. So,
And please understand, I'm not, you should certainly consult anybody that you feel necessary. What I'm just suggesting is that these are all things that we've already looked at, and there's already legitimate questions as to what certain outcomes could be. We've accepted those, we understand those. I appreciate you bringing them up, but they're things we've already looked at, and the outcome is the driving force here, and this is the goal that we put in place, and we've achieved that goal. If there's a better way to achieve the goal, I'm not sure what it would be. Zero cost to the taxpayer is a pretty good outcome, in my opinion.
James?
Well, I'm not sure there is a better outcome than the one that you've negotiated. There are 4 dams that we currently own that are managed by the Conservation Commission. This seems to be the most crucial one of all. This is the first time within the last 2 days that I've heard that the Conservation Commission is interested in managing this dam, and I'm come to the opinion that that's a good thing. And with all due respect, Bob, I didn't have an answer, but I think I do now, that this settlement that's been negotiated leads to a fully repaired dam and a full restoration of the historic water level. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing else.
Paul?
I said it at our last meeting, Bob. I know where I want to get to as an endpoint. It's everything you pointed out with, fully restored dam, bring that water level back to its historic level. And I think it's important to do that sooner rather than later. I don't want to do anything that puts it in jeopardy. My one conflict, though, and help me sort through this, is Concom wants to take ownership of the dam and manage it. I think that's the right board, as you pointed out. The fact that it wouldn't go to town meeting, that it would be accepted as a gift, concerns me. I think it's a decision for the town. Again, I don't want to put it in jeopardy, and I understand the politics of the situation more than most people, but that's something I'm concerned with. Is there a way to do both? Can Concom become the ultimate owner, and it does go to town meeting?
I think that's a political decision, and I'm not on your board. I'm simply your representative as a committee member.
There's nothing
And
that would preclude that, though, with
I
the
certainly
agreement.
respect that, and then how you went about it after a meeting is certainly a decision that your board would be able to make. I can't advise.
But as
you
far
on
as
that.
the MOU, as far as that agreement, if it still went to town meeting, there's nothing that would say, okay, if it goes to town meeting, Concom can't take ownership of that dam.
I am not aware of anything one way or the other. However, I guess the outcome that wouldn't be desirable is that through town meeting vote, if the Board of Selectmen were given ownership, I wouldn't know what mechanism there is for you just to give it to the Conservation Commission. I wouldn't know the answer to
Well,
that.
doesn't the Board of Selectmen have to approve any gift to conservation?
Yes.
So basically, this is circumventing the entire town by having a vote at town meeting. We're putting it right back here.
The glass half empty view would be that it's circumventing the vote. The glass half empty on the other side would be that this is
Speeding up.
the outcome that we wanted to come to in the first place. And timing is sometimes just what it is. And so there's certainly no intent to circumvent town meeting vote. That's not, I believe.
I know that. I don't believe
No, but it's a legitimate question, Mark, and I appreciate your asking it. And I think the Conservation Commission, I can assure you that during the meeting, that actually didn't come up as to what the motivation was. I think the motivation was Bill Hocking made a very compelling case as to why Concom should really have ownership of the dam, and Concom responded positively to that, so.
And I actually walked the area the other day and over the dam, and you know, it's a beautiful piece of property. There's no doubt about it, and especially the Lane property. It's probably the nicest piece of property we have in Foxboro. Paul, do you have more questions?
Yeah, and that was the only thing I was conflicted about, Bob, is that, you know, because we get asked the questions, and, you know, why didn't you put this to a town meeting vote? That is our form of town government. But again, I don't want to do anything to jeopardize getting this deal done. I think it's a good deal. Although in fairness to Paul and his questions, I think, you know, if we take a couple of weeks and just get the answers that this board needs from town council, I think that's advantageous. And then
Can I just make one other thing that
Can
the
I-
reason?
Can I, do you have another question after that?
no, I'm all set.
I was actually going to say, Linda's done yeoman's work on your
Oh,
behalf.
she's next.
Sitting at, I'm just going to point out, sitting through not only our meetings, but also through and participating in the Conservation Commission meetings to, you know, bring yourself up to speed. And so, you know, I appreciate all the work she's done, and I didn't want to make it appear as though there wasn't participation from your board. There is. She's your representative. She's done a great job. She's been participating all along. So, just want to toss that in there.
Duly noted. Sheila?
I was just going to say the other party that we haven't discussed here, because it isn't just us and the dam owner, it's the downstream people. And dam safety, that is their interest,
Right.
not us, but the downstream people.
Yeah.
And they want it safe for them in whatever feasible, you know, most financially economical way for the dam owner. And as far as they're concerned, any problems we have is the other state department, hazardous waste. And we would talk to them because imminent life could be lost if the dam breached. And they've been dragging their tails at lowering the third board that we don't want done while we as a town try to work something out. But the only outcome that's going to be good for us is that we as a town are in control of that body of water. And as you said, it's a beautiful resource for the entire town of Foxboro, both with the land and the water and the improvements we spent 20-something years on trying to do. And I say go for the quickest, easiest, fastest way to get us where we need to be to preserve that for the future. And as long as it remains in somebody else's hands 2 towns over, it isn't going to be protected for our future.
And Sheila, the construction period for this dam is based on next spring, correct? If this is all approved, you're looking at
Permitting
Could-
process.
Actually,
process by
probably
town.
next fall. And
Towards, right.
the reason for that is because it would want to coincide with the annual drawdown.
Correct. I'm just trying to make sure that's clear. So I don't see why 2 more weeks hurts. I'm not ready to make a decision on this tonight. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, I'm not asking for a decision.
All right?
What I'm asking is
I
for
need to think about this.
what I'm asking is for your.
Blessing?
Uh,
We've given a few of those out.
No. For your agreement that I can, I've been blessed many times, that I can go back to Cindy Mara and have her draft a sample amendment for your review and possible approval. If you have no interest at all, then I'm not going to do that.
We have a great deal of interest, as you can tell from this board.
I just didn't want to spend money before.
But I
we
just
had an
think,
idea.
well, we'll get to that. Anyways, Paul, you all set?
Yeah, no, I think it's money well spent. If we have to, you know, so that we feel comfortable, Bob, making a decision, then I think it's something we have to do. It's a major issue. Look, it's one of the things that was kind of a spur for me to run, is that I heard a selectman years ago say that he wouldn't touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. That's not government. It's not government. And I think we need to act and act quickly on this. So
Thank you.
It wasn't me.
it wasn't you. Nobody at this table.
I would also point out, as I'm sitting here thinking, something came up, because the Conservation Commission did ask that question you had, and a representative from Hollingworth and Bose was at the meeting and responded to that study. There is a study, a published study that was done, and in event of a imminent dam breach, the water level would dissipate by the time it hit populated areas. So as far as the Office of Dam Safety is concerned, I suspect that a legitimate outcome, they would say, is that there's no danger to human life or property, and thus they don't really care if the dam is there or not. That's just my 2 cents worth from what I learned from the last conservation. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Is that that's what
Definitely.
So again, I believe that actually weakens our negotiating position, and why I think the agreement that we came to is a strong one.
I strongly think the Lane property will become the Newton-upon-Sea Reservoir if that thing breached.
Actually, the Lane property would be upstream from it and wouldn't have any effect. It would flow over Crack Rock Pond. It would create a temporary rise. There's nothing but parking lots and woods between here and the town of Walpole, and by that time, it would get absorbed into
We
the
have our
fields.
Gillette Stadium.
And a couple of houses.
Gillette Stadium issue.
Mine are issues
I'll be
about that.
driving the bus across the
Yeah.
the thing bag. Linda?
I am definitely not up to speed on everything, Bob. I mean, I came home with a packet of, information I've been going through. I spent time with Chris, with Kim, and Sheila, and Bob, and I am nowhere near where you guys are. Absolutely not. But I don't think that bringing in the new council right now on this subject is going to get answers for us. I believe that the answers are sitting right here in front of us. You can ask these guys anything. They have all the research papers that they've done. You just got to take the time and go through it, and even go through some of our meetings that Bob has spoken, Sheila's spoken. They've all been up here and given some of these answers that you're probably looking for. So the answers are there. I don't think that we need to encourage our new lawyer. I think at this point I'd like to make the motion that we move that we permit Bob to go approach Attorney Gellerman for the amendment, to write the draft of the amendment to bring to us in 2 weeks so that we can revisit it then.
It's not Attorney Gilman, is it?
Well, it's an attorney in his office that's been tasked with this. She's doing a great job, Cindy Moyer.
Oh,
And
Cindy, okay. I'm
And I've
sorry.
already spoken with Andy, and we have agreement that since they're already 99% of the way through this process, to expend funds to bring another entity in and get them up to speed would not be cost effective. Since at this point, everything is done, except for this now last minute opportunity that we have, so.
Okay.
I'll second that with discussion, Mark.
Okay, before the board opens up to discussion, I'd like to involve the public. Is that okay? Or do you want to act on the motion now?
Careful, you have a motion.
All right, I gotta be careful with that. All right, well, motion's second, and we have discussion, so I guess
You
you
don't want to
can...
bring the public in, she can withdraw the motion with the...
No, I'll wait afterwards.
Just the only thing I have to say is two things. It doesn't preclude, if Bob goes to Attorney Gellerman, or to Attorney Gellerman's office to do what they're asking, doesn't preclude anybody on this board from going to our town council and having questions answered, legal questions answered on any of these issues.
As long as you go through Andy,
So it doesn't...
And I'm also a resource if
because
your new
Andy probably
council,
knows the answer you may.
well, if your new council wanted to contact me to get the historic documents and save them some research time, I'll be happy to provide.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure that's what their intent will be. My only other thing is does that, Andy or Bob, does that create any sort of conflict where, if Attorney Gellerman's working on this issue with you guys, and then we have another attorney?
Well, I'm thinking that, if you draft an amendment, it's not anything extensive.
Right.
It's probably amending a couple of
It's
paragraphs.
essentially the sentence I read is
In
that
this
it
agreement?
just changes what the town of Foxboro's entity will be as far as ownership.
Yeah, Linda's motion, could you read that again, Paulie, just so we all make sure? Linda's motion.
To move that we permit Bob to approach Attorney Gellerman's office to draft the amendment to the MOU so that we would have it in our next packet.
Yeah.
We just specified Bob Hickey.
I'm sorry, Bob Hickey. You don't want to do
Any more
that?
discussion? Paul, James?
I'm relying on the record that has been presented numerous times that there's no maintenance cost, that it's $500 a year, it's mowing. I'm really, it's the only thing I have in front of me in terms of what the ongoing cost is. So that's an important issue with me. We were never given this avenue. We were given the other avenue, which was the town meeting avenue. It's my opinion that the board has been supportive of that, regardless of whether we pressed for additional concessions. I think that's part of the role of the Board of Selectmen. I think it's remarkable, given that we had absolutely no right to do this, that we were able to get any deal at all in terms of repair. So I would support the motion.
Paul?
Curious whether or not this would come under the physical, so to speak, that Durensis would do? In other words, would we even be charged for him to look and, answer the question? Does the Conservation Commission have the power?
It would come under the retainer.
Or the retainer, yeah.
Yeah, the retainer
So, I mean,
payment,
it's
yeah.
basically costless to us to have him look at it.
Everything that the board requests as far as legal questions or legal review come out of the monthly retainer fee.
I would say not costless, cost-effective. If you want an opinion from Paul that's within the retainer, and it would satisfy you and make you comfortable, I think that's a good thing. And certainly during the transition, these were matters that we discussed. Attorney Gelman's office carries forward on the projects that they were handling.
I think that's reasonable.
And there's communication so that new council understands the issue and understands what we're doing, and if there's a pitfall, but maybe he'll find it.
Bob,
Just, if the answer comes back that, quote, the Conservation Commission has the right to force the dam owner to restore the dam, I'd like to know how.
Yeah, roadmap, yeah.
Don't just come up with, say, yes, you have the authorization. I want to know how.
I think
No,
there's
no, I
also
agree.
asking for case law to support it because we've not been able to find any on our
Right.
side, so.
I would feel more comfortable when you do a project of this size. An extra $100,000 put in escrow causes maintenance, takes care of maintenance situations where I've been involved with taxes for eternity for families. Certain houses I've worked on, when the parents pass away, it's left in the estate, there's no maintenance cost burdened, it's an escrow for the future generations to enjoy. That's the one thing you're missing here, and it's a big thing. Because if you had that kind of, that little bit of money, maybe the NRRC wants to put that in there, and that it's its own account, and it, gains interest and makes more money so that in 50 years, or how many years from now, the town's not faced with the burden of fixing this through taxation. That's the one thing you're missing in my eyes. I have friends that live all over that lake, and I told them point blank, I would put it on the town meeting floor. I would not take it away from the citizens to be able to vote for that. By doing this, we're taking it off the town meeting floor. I don't agree with that. Because everybody has a voice. You're going to be voting on water and sewers, is also a major issue in your area. That's going to go to town meeting floor. So I don't support what you, don't not support what you've done. I just disagree with going right to the Conservation Commission and not being able to bring this to the town meeting floor. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel, because you know what, I lived on that lake, and you talk about having no operating budget. Don't tell me Kersey Point's the prettiest place in town, because it still looks like, you know what, when I walked down there last week. There's trash everywhere, nobody picks it up, it's a mess. Trina Parks doesn't clean it, and neither does the town DPW. Because you have what, Bob? No operating budget. So now you're going to take on another piece of property where you're going to have $500 a year for, with no future expansion for any kind of structural integrity problems or anything else. You're missing that piece. So I'm sorry, I won't support the motion. And I do just agree with Paul that we could take 2 more weeks to just have our newer council take a peek at this, because that's all I'm asking for. So with that said, I was hoping to let the public speak, but we had a motion on the table, so I had to recognize the board first. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 3-2, Pauline, and I can count votes too, so you won anyways. So, all right, thank you.
If I could ask the chairman, I'd like to give an update on Crack Rock Pond at the next meeting, since it looks like I'll be coming back anyway. Could I ask to be included on the agenda?
Could
for
you
Crack
check
Rock
with
Pond?
Sandy so she doesn't take my head off, to make sure she has room on the agenda?
But I enjoy putting in those positions.
I'm sure you do, Bob. Thank you.
But I do have a question, a request, if you will. I have 3 legal questions I need to ask before I take any more steps, and I'd like permission to work with Andy to spend a little legal money to do that.
Is that
It'll be
a
to our
vote of the
benefit.
board, or is that up to the chairman?
Could you reduce your issues to writing? That's what the board discussed and
Yes.
set as a policy.
I prefer not to.
Let's put the issues down in writing, and then we'll take them up and see if there's a cost associated
I
with it.
prefer not to. You asked me to look into this and create a solution, and in order to do that, I've got 3 questions I need to ask before I ask. I know, and I agree, actually.
Andy, how do you feel
As I
about
make a
that?
presentation,
Have you-
I need to know what our position is as far as a town. Similar to some of the questions Paul had. I asked some similar questions, and of course I would go through Andy being town manager and controller of the budget. But I do want to make sure that you're aware that I'm at this point now where I need to get some property laws clarified and some county construction laws clarified.
I know what the questions are. We'll talk and see what the questions are.
I'll let's Bob.
That's all I asked.
Yeah. Oh, Bob will talk to Andy, and Andy, give me a call. All right. All right.
Just so we know what we're dealing with.
I mean-
Just rough them out and know what the questions are.
Would you do it if you were here, Bob?
If I had asked somebody to work on my behalf and he told me that, or she told me that they needed a little bit of information or to give a full presentation, then yes, I would trust them to do it.
Well, let's do it now.
Can you give me a hint?
Okay.
Is
I'd
it
like to
something
know,
you want-
there's a 1922 construction of the road. I'd like to know what the definition of road is. I'd like to know what the definition of county-owned versus town-owned. I'd like to know what the promises were that were made between the, I believe, the Standard Electric Company and the Norfolk County Public Works
Good
at the
for me.
time. I'd like to know how that's interpreted and how that carries out to 2008 law and statutes. I'd also like to know how the agreement with the Patriots Place Development through the Planning Board impacts some opportunities that we may have for the dam. And then finally, I'd like to understand under the 1879 gift, my interpretation of it, what roles and responsibilities the town has versus the county.
I'm not sure I followed all that, Bob. Maybe you want to reduce it.
We're talking about
Can we put it in writing and take it up so we
We're talking
understand
about
what the issues
another
are?
piece of property this company owns that needs to be repaired. Bob and I have been talking about it. And it doesn't mean people were upset at me because I brought it up.
I
I was
think
trying to use it as leverage, accepting this gift, get the other one repaired too.
You know what to tell you about now.
I'd really like to go
Crack
to the
rod,
next
yeah,
meeting and give you a full,
Okay.
full report. I think we're close to being done, and that's why I'd like to be able to do this, because I've got just a little bit more to go.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
How about you, Andy? Is it all right with you? Seems to be landing on your desk.
Well, I've seen the deed, but it's hard to interpret the deed.
So you need someone to interpret the deed. It's all contained in one deed? Two deeds. I think it's reasonable to have interpretation of two deeds if they have to do with the public way and a culvert.
So
Whether I'm
the-
supposed to say that or not.
I appreciate that.
Paul, the input?
I guess I'm okay with it, just, I wonder if there's you have an idea of maximum number of fees, because again, we, have a retainer versus spending a couple of grand, who cares? Well, I shouldn't say who cares.
Ooh.
Wait a minute. No,
Microphone's
I care.
on, young
However,
man.
That, Randy?
it's,
Yeah.
well, that's small money. Thank you. That's small money. But if, if it gets more than that, geez, we have a retainer. So do you have a sense of that, Bob, or can we ask?
Would you be willing to do this, Bob? Would you be willing to provide me with copies of the deeds and have you and I talk about them first and see if we can identify exactly what the issues are? I do have some experience in reading deeds. It might be of some help.
After all, it's all opinions, right? They're lawyers, so it's all opinions. Might as well take the free one, I guess.
I'm willing to do it between now and the next meeting. Can you get me the deeds?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's do that. Paul, anything?
No.
All right, solely deeded. Okay, you guys get together. All right, Lynn, you all set with this?
No.
No, okay, hit it.
I guess I need clarification here. Bob's asking to go to the lawyer for some verification on materials that could be very pertinent to the subject that we're going to discuss in 2 weeks. And he's asking the board for permission to do that. Just as well as Mr. Mortensen would like to approach the new council about questions. So I don't know what the difference is. I don't understand what the difference is.
I think I have
So
a
just
6-year
need
track
clarif-
record of being fairly conservative with use of legal fees. I would ask this board that they trust my judgment on this.
That's what I just need that
I'll
clarified.
entertain-
I don't know what the
I've got to make
difference
a
is.
determination which council to use. This is not the dam you're accepting as a gift. This
So
is
we could vote
this is
to
another
allow
situation.
you to let Bob use either council right now.
Will be his.
It's the transition.
We have a strong town manager
Right.
to keep it in gate with all town council matters, so I
Right.
think, it's...
I refer
We'll
to
talk.
I-
Jim will
Andy
confer with
has the
Jim,
final say
we'll decide which one to use.
I
That's all.
think that's fine. I think that's a great idea.
Do you need a vote on this, or we just, oh, good, good. All right, let's
It's
move
all
on.
Andy.
All right. Any more questions?
Pretty
I will allow the public, if you want to make, anybody wants to make a statement, even after our decision, if you'd like to come forward, now's your chance. Okay. Oh, to the microphone, please, Mr. Baker.
Just a question. I'm not altogether, John Baker, 16 Milton Lane. I'm not altogether sure if I understood your vote. I agree with your position, Mark, but you were overruled. So does that mean that this will not go to the town meeting?
No, not at this point in time.
We haven't voted on that yet, actually, John.
That's not the question before.
It's whether or not they can amend.
Okay.
He's just doing a draft of the MOU, an amendment to the MOU that we did before, so that my motion was just so that the lawyer could do the amendment. That'll be in 2 weeks, more discussion.
Thank you. Gentleman in the back, please, your name for the record when you get...
My name is Mike Caleri, Shoreline Drive. I just have a question as to what exactly it is we want the new town council to rule on in terms of what, from what I got, you were looking to find out if we can force them to build it in. Well, we've already got them to build it in. Why do we need to find out from town council if we can force them to do it?
The question is whether or not the Conservation Commission can have the power such that they, meaning the current owners, have to pay for the whole entire amount. That's the thing that kind of got me, saying, wait a minute, let's stop. Such that the NRRC, the non-for-profit, doesn't have to kick in $100,000 of its dollars. And my thought was, hey, all the greater, because they'll have that much more money to abate phosphorus pollution. So I would, in my little dream world here, it would be they spend all their funds to fix it up the way we want it, they gift it over, we take it, and the NRRC is $100,000 richer. Am I in fantasy land? Maybe, I don't know. But I figured our friend Durensis, at no cost to the town, can tell me whether or not that's practical and give us the roadmap. And if he comes back and says, you can do it, but it's going to be, like banging your head against a wall, then we know, and I'm not inclined to bang my head against a wall. I just like to be, have that information, and I appreciate that perhaps prior council did look at that, but, I don't have that in front of me, and what's the harm? Just 2 more weeks. I'm sure Durensis will be able to, run through that within a few weeks, and we just armed with that information.
So I guess the question is, they're willing to pay for 90% of it. Can we force them to pay for 100% of it? Is that the question?
Yeah, precisely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain one more question. Lorraine.
I just wanted to comment on the legal counsel opinion, and I think that really is part of what I had intended to say, but having sat through the interviews with 4 firms, each firm did state that it was worthwhile looking at the potential authority of the Conservation Commission, and each firm did actually state to the extent that it would not be necessary to take ownership. So I think the point of research is important at this point to make sure that, an issue like Mark is bringing up long term is addressed, but also that, the safety and the property values are maintained too. So it sounded like from the 4 law firms that there is definitely an issue to look at there. So I just wanted to...
And I know the question's going to be asked, whether or not anybody thinks so, that I will be in contact with the town council.
May I respond to that briefly?
Yes.
With all due respect, I watched the interviews, and the question was partially asked. The question did not address funding source.
No, I understand, Bob.
And the dam, as it currently sits, can be repaired for $435,000.
2 board below level.
As it currently sits.
3.
3. 2 or 3? Let's get that straight.
Well, it's 1 more down.
One more down.
One
So
more, okay.
with 1 more down, it can be repaired for $435,000. They will maintain ownership of it for $435,000, and they'll repair it to its current state. less one board. That's where we're at. Town council, I'm sure, will tell you that that is something that's doable. They have to maintain the dam. They could seek to decommission the dam, and there is some discussion as to whether they'd be able to do that. We understand that. I think we're all on the same page with that. The question should have been, can they be forced to extend funds to increase the dam level to historical heights and be forced to maintain ownership, even if there's no compelling need for downstream safety? That's the real question. That question has been asked and answered, and the answer is no. I'd be very surprised if any of your 4 applicants would have given an answer that's not supported by any case law that would force a private owner who has no use for a dam to not only restore it, but to build it up higher than what it is now for no economic reason other than, I don't want to use the word fantasyland, but because the town wants it to be so. That's a question that we have gone through, and I understand there's some confusion there. I'm not very confused, and I think I'm doing a bad job of communicating where we're at and where we want to be. The goal we have is fully restored. That's what the agreement is. So
You make that very clear, and that's a good question. That is the most accurate question to ask. Okay.
So that's what
Now,
gave
if
us
you can-
the impetus to locate private funding, because our mission was to fully restore at zero cost to the taxpayer.
Okay, and that's the question I will ask. And the other two things is, I want to ask a question whether or not we can still go to town meeting with a vote for this and turn it over at the same time to the Conservation Commission once it passes town meeting approval. Because I will ask that question. And that's, I think, in fairness to the whole town. I've made that statement many times. And then I'd also like to see the NRRC, if I'm getting it correct, donate some money out of that lawsuit if the town does accept the dam for future maintenance costs and fund in an escrow account.
Mr. Chairman, the NRRC's money was intentionally protected from the town to prevent that sort of thing from happening.
I'm not saying we're going to take it. I'm asking for you to give it.
It says the same thing in my book. Unfortunately, it says the same thing in my book. And
Bob's not going to accept any gifts.
Besides, if we do that, then we have no money to do the phosphorus mitigation.
100,000? I know how much money you got.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you know what
All
that
set with
costs?
that? We're going to move on.
And the bylaws.
We're going to move on.
And the bylaws were written for the NRRC that were accepted and signed off by this board that would prevent them from using funds for town purposes.
And one little comment. The ownership of the dam is not in any one company's name. Is that correct?
It's in the NRC currently, which is only has 2 shareholders left.
Yeah. So if they evaporate, then the whole
Ownership.
thing goes away, and
Oh,
you cannot chase.
It's
the
just a
benefit.
timeline thing
Okay.
everybody gives me
Okay.
every time. The Patriots, now Mansfield with the water sewer. Now you, Bob. Come on. All right, let's move on. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Apologize, but that's what's going to happen.